focus on what makes someone an engineer special, because any engineer can weigh trade-offs. Any engineer can learn one piece of code or one specific technicality from a bug crash. Again, focus on what makes an engineer special. What makes you stand out? Why should I care about you as an engineer?
I guess specifically in this Amazon interview, I experienced where my interviewer showed no emotion
Mm-hmm.
while I was responding to the behavioral questions,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know how to like gauge whether I am responding correctly, especially during like the moment, right? It
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to continue, and it's hard to continue even though like you don't know how it feels, right? And
Mm-hmm.
also like I guess during the interview, like I try like to change my I guess strategy on like how I like answer things. Maybe I'm more maybe I try and ask more questions, or maybe I ask fewer questions.
I see.
Um, yeah,
So you're talking about the behavioral interview portion, correct?
yeah.
Okay, so we can actually spend our time talking about that. So, the way I view behavioral interview portions, and I assume that you read the doc, is that you have a chance to explain yourself as the story of who you are as a developer and what makes you stand out from everybody else. Now, of course, that is goes without saying, but there's a lot more to to that statement. And what I mean by that is, what do you prioritize as a developer? Now, everyone has this strikes this very different balance what they what they do, what they value, and how they balance all that to achieve results. Some people might value code cleanliness, other people might value impact, other people might value deep understanding. And this is something that you're going to see like at at a much more varied level at the senior level. But for most people coming out of school, the almost everyone follows like a pretty generic cookie cutter in a sense that they only focus on trying to spit out as much code as possible and ship as much product as possible, because a lot of people who come straight out of school have this mindset of code, code, code. And it's only really when you get up into your career that you start beginning to value other things. So for you specifically, I would say being able to show that you care more about the code quality and care about like actually learning is almost always the right answer. Instead of trying to prove that, oh, you're super, super special. Proving that you are open to learning while constantly trying and achieving things is the better balance. Does that make sense?
So if I got it correctly, it was just mostly like how I can demonstrate that I can code.
No, show that you are interested more. Show that you're interested in not just coding, but also how to get better at coding, which does involve, showing that you can code. But for the most part, you really want to show that you have a hunger for learning and that you aren't just satisfied with where you are now. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I feel like um, I've had personal like I had behaviorals that I've written
Mhm.
um, about that. Um,
So, if you've seen one of my videos, I think I did one behavioral interview with some guy who was in Europe or something, and he also had an Amazon behavioral interview as well. And I can link you the video after. But essentially, what I told him was that, how do I tell the story of, like, the entire behavioral question is, what do you value as a developer? It's the same thing I said in the very beginning here. And so what I really worked on with him was to show, hey, yeah, when it comes to actually writing the code, when it comes to actually doing stuff, that I need to know who you are. Like, are you going to focus more on the development aspect? Are you going to focus more on getting people together? Do you focus more on the deep understanding and preventing bugs sort of aspect? And I think you could get a lot of value out of watching that video. Granted, your answers will not necessarily be the same as him, but
mhm.
it's just something to keep in mind that there are other things that I've done, and I think you would also get benefit out of. So,
Yeah, link me that video. That sounds good.
So that being said, I think the correct answer to default to is, hey, I've done this, I've put my effort in, and I want to know more. That's basically the spirit of all the responses that I think you should give as a student. Of course, this is going to be tailored to who you are. And so tell me a little bit about like your own background experience and what kind of story you want to tell.
Okay. Um, I'm. Would it be a good idea to go over like a specific example I have right now?
Uh how about more like your projects, your history, your internships, why did you pick the internships, and what you hope to get out of your career? Let's start with that.
The my projects. Um, um, yeah, um, I say like the only one that had like value to me was like, or that made me show that I wanted to learn more was probably like I made like a copy of Twitter, but for badminton because I play badminton, and then specifically in that area, it's like my Twitter social media would show posts about like latest topics in badminton. But like
Okay.
pretty much what it did is just like lead left to like multiple links of like common badminton websites.
I see. Okay, so then let's pivot. Tell me all the projects you've done, all the internships you've done, from when you started to now. Let's see if we can create a story for you.
Yeah. Um Firstly, I guess the first that was my first project I did.
Hmm.
Um badminton social media. Second one was I had like a part-time developer job that I got on campus, and I guess that mainly like on my resume I wrote that like I um built the deployment pipeline to make like build and release faster for this developer team, right? But like that's not really I mean genuinely it's not really what I did, but I know I helped out with it and I know how to do it. Um, that's the first part. Um, After that, I got internship at like a I'm trying not to say the company name, but it was
Just say
like a
small, medium, or large size company.
large size company and like Fortune 500. Worked on like enterprise ERP stuff and
Small Fortune 500. Okay.
a large Fortune
Oh,
500.
large for blue chip like Fang or not that quite there.
Uh, I actually don't know what blue chip is, but uh, they worked in like analytics software and
Oh,
enterprise software.
okay. I
Yeah.
have a good idea. It's like Teradata.
Yes, remember that. And there, I kind of went on the same route that I did at the part-time startup, and I made a small like Jenkins job that like just collects the logs from like. So I actually wasn't a software engineer.
Mhm.
It was called like cloud engineer, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, I collected the logs of like crashes from our like customer systems, and then I just forward it to like the correct teams because we were like experiencing a lot of crashes recently, and I feel like what I learned from my part time like helped in that. Uh, but after that, so well, I guess I have like on that note, I also got like the I don't know if it's well known or not, but I got like Amazon Web Services like certifications. Um,
Okay.
I got the I went up to like solutions architect, and I feel like that's what drove me to like try and go for Amazon. And I
Okay.
talked about that in my
Okay. It seems like you have trouble kind of articulating your own experiences. So let's do this. Send me your resume, and then we can try. We can probably do things a little bit more efficiently if that makes sense.
yeah, for sure. It I am.
Because I'll tell you this right now. The fact that it's really difficult for you to articulate this is not a very good sign to me because it means that you haven't really practiced uh the story of what people should focus on, why people should care about you as a developer. So, I mean, this is part of the process, but I think I've already identified the first issue is that you don't know what aspect of your story that people should care about. So, let's actually look at your resume and then see if we can craft something from this.
Yeah. Actually, do you mind if I like send you like two things? Uh, like I'll send you the resume, and then like I'll send you like my responses to the that I had prepared for like an Amazon interview.
Okay, yeah, let's see.
I'm gonna send it to the Zoom link, the
You
Zoom
gonna
link
send a
email
Zoom?
thread.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it.
Oh, I just realized that I did not like everything is I didn't leak out my name and stuff like that.
Okay.
Like so there.
Then just send me just snap the picture of it or and then send it over or something.
I already sent the email though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'll crop it out in post. If not, I'm an editor for that.
Oh, you got an editor now.
Yeah, so I had like a huge backlog of like 12 to 15 interviews that I didn't get a chance to edit. So I was able to because people were like tipping me and hiring me for coaching. All the stuff actually went back into equipment, lighting, trying to hire out some help to help me catch up on my backlogs, everything. So literally this like everything like I do, everything I get out here just goes back in. So
That's dope. I can see how it's helping now with channel growth.
I mean, like
Mm.
I'm only at 1,000. People have hit 10,000 the same amount of time, so it's like it's whatever for me. It's just I want to make the videos better. So let me actually share my screen, and so you can actually kind of see what I am going to be referring to. So based on what I understand here, it seems like a lot of your internships and focus has been on CI/CD. Um,
Yeah.
and why don't let's make that a focus of what you talk about. Because it seems like you have a very good I would say a very interesting resume for a student because a lot of people don't really have experience with like Docker. Like essentially, you're basically leaning towards DevOps with Kubernetes, Docker, and CI/CD pipeline. So I assume you probably have like what's it called experience with like Jenkins, and you might eventually get into like Kafka at some point. But for the most
Yeah.
part, I think trying to market yourself as a CI/CD engineer, it would be actually a very interesting thing to do because a lot of students do not have that kind of experience. Most of them write like product in Python or something, right? So,
Okay.
so when I see this, tell me in 1 to 2 sentences who you are and why I should care about you as a developer.
Um.
Like imagine you're at a meetup and you want to
Yeah.
shake hands with someone and introduce yourself. Who are you and why should I care?
Um. I'm and I'd probably say like I'm an inspiring like software engineer, and I've done a lot of work in CI/CD and like um automation. Yeah.
Okay. Say that with more confidence though.
Oh.
Do it again. Like, hey, I'm Edward. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
I work at Uber in financial products. What about you?
Yeah. Hey, I'm Sam. I've worked at SAP and I've had a lot of experience in CI/CD, and I want to learn more about that and tie that with software development.
Oh, so you had experience. What do you do now?
Right now I'm just a TA for a course at my school, and I'm actually taking for software engineering, and I mainly focus on debugging students' code with they mainly have problems with Git or with asynchronous programming.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you there because you notice there that you were like you didn't know what to say, and you were like very hesitant.
I am.
So I want you to this time again. I want you to think of yourself. Let's start with this story. I'm gonna give you a story, and I want you to believe it, just for the sake of practice. Because what I'm gonna tell you where I'm going with this. So I want you to think that you are a CI/CD engineer. You are very good at your job. You are very good at your job, and you want to continue this in the future
Mhm.
when you graduate. So let's start over. Hi, my name is Edward. I work at Uber on financial products. Prior to that, I was at Apple working on Apple Music.
Hey, Edward. Yeah, I'm Sam. I'm previously a cloud infrastructure engineer at SAP, and I've touched on a lot of CI/CD there. And right now, I'm trying to tie in CI/CD with my software engineering skills.
Okay, but you notice how the way. Okay, so phrasing aside, that sounded a little bit better. But the point I'm trying to get you to
Thanks.
do is to actually believe your own words. It's I'm trying to get you to believe the story you want to tell, or at least the story that I've given you. So let's say I gave you the story of you worked on like going extending off of this, assuming that I gave you a script. Like I'm a CI/CD engineer. I have worked with, and okay, but there's a lot of CI/CD engineers. I want you to tell me why I should care. It's like I'm a very good CI/CD engineer and mostly work on large scale distributed systems or some shit like that.
Yeah,
So yeah, like if you could say something like that, then it's like, oh, suddenly you're interesting. You
that's
shouldn't
true.
you
Yeah.
shouldn't come off as someone who is like for instance, the reason why I say like Uber financial products is more than just saying where I work. It's like, oh, financial products is inherently interesting. And Uber is like, and people know the company. And then like, of course, this is me borrowing name clout, you know.
Yeah.
But then prior to that, I said I worked on Apple Music, you know. And so it's like I very specifically say what product I was working on at Apple. That's interesting. I could have just said Apple, but then it's like, oh, well, what do you do at Apple? And so I'm trying to hit these like products that or aspects that really stick out in my mind. So if you say CI/CD, that's pretty generic. You say SAP, like, okay, cool. You're a CI/CD engineer at SAP. Okay, but then why should I care? Because there's so many CI/CD engineers everywhere. There are not a lot of music engineers. So I want you to add some flair, something you believe in.
Um, would adding like would adding the part with I've dealt with distributed database systems make make it sound more interesting?
How about saying you deployed continuous CI/CD built pipelines across large scale distributed systems? Would that be accurate?
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty accurate. Yeah.
Okay, say it
Yeah.
back to me. Hi, my name's Sam.
Hi, my name's Sam. I worked at SAP in cloud infrastructure, and I've been doing CI/CD across their distributed database systems.
Try that again. Rephrase it. Rephrase it.
Yeah. Oh, um,
Just say, how about this? Hi, my name is Sam. I'm a CI/CD engineer at SAP, and I've deployed this across the large scale distributed systems, or something like that.
yeah.
Something very
Hi,
short, and sweet. Go ahead.
yeah. Hi, I'm Sam, and I've worked on CI/CD.
I am.
CI/CD.
Say, I am who you are, not what you worked on. Who you are.
Yeah.
Go again.
Uh, Hi, I'm Sam. I'm a cloud infrastructure engineer at SAP, and I've done CI/CD work across and I don't really know what to say.
Large scale distributed systems. Or something.
Large scale distributed systems.
I'll leave that up to you, but we're gonna run with this because this seems to be like, since you have two what's it called, two experiences with that, I'm gonna make this your focal point. So my
Okay.
question, so now the question is, why did I have you go through all that? Well, it's because I need you to believe your own words, because it's not about collecting a bunch of stories. It's about creating a timeline, creating a story about you. And how did you get to this point? So you say you're a CI/CD engineer, and you deploy this across large scale distributed systems. Okay, well then, how did you get there? What was your first project? What led you down the road to become a CI/CD engineer?
Yeah, I guess it was in my work. It was in my part-time work where I migrated a application to AWS to automate their deployment process.
Okay. Okay, so you did that. All right, you automated their deployment process.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Now the question now is, okay, so you migrated one project. How did you roll that into your current project, or your current or into SAP?
Yeah, my experience with that made it really, like, it familiarized me with uh, running scripts on top of, or creating scripts for Jenkins, so you can run multiple scripts at the same time.
Okay. So
And yeah,
go ahead.
I was just about to say, like, that in turn helped it, made it really easy to understand how to run processes at one time, all at once.
Okay. Okay, so I see. So you're talking about the technicalities. Most
Mhm.
people want the service level before they get to technicality.
Yeah.
So what I want you to do is try to rephrase this in a way that you can make someone who is not a CIC engineer care.
Okay. I think for my part-time work, it's valuable because it allows developers to push changes very fast.
I know what CI/CD does. I'm not an engineer on that, but why should I care about your work? What makes you special?
I think it's the answer that I've worked in a really unique area, and then I guess specifically as like distributed database systems. So maybe if I talk about that, then
Everyone has worked on interesting systems. Let me give you my example. So let's say if I want to paint the story of me as a developer back in, like, let's say I'm 2016, I came out of school. It's like,
yeah,
hi, my name's Edward. I'm an Android engineer, and I've been working on Android for the last 4 years. I started off doing Java and working on video game hacks like Minecraft.
yeah,
And then eventually I was so interested in computer programming that eventually I turned my Java skills into application skills and learned Android all on my own. Afterwards, I applied my Android skills and wrote a patent. And I found that when I was in sophomore year of college. That's off the top of my head. Of course, I didn't rehearse that, but you can kind of already tell, like, the elements that make people care. It's like, oh, okay, you did Android for 4 years, throughout the entire time at college, and you told me a little bit of how you got started. Oh, okay, interesting. That's not something I hear every day. People doing video game hacks, like, and then you started doing startup work. Okay, that's pretty typical. And then you rolled that into a patent. Oh shit, a patent. So you kind of see, like, how even if I took out the patent part, there were still little nuggets of things that, oh, this is interesting. Oh, this is interesting.
yeah. You're right, and it's really cool how, like, you all made it, like, line up with each other, like all the experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the moment I said that, it was like, what? It was 2-3 sentences, but I painted for you the story of me, where I started to where I am today, or at least back to where I was when I graduated college, and I said, oh, I have a bunch of years of Android experience. So in that 2-3 sentences, I told you, hey, I am familiar with some video game hacks. So I'm interested. So I have, some debugging, some, how to say, deductive logic skills, for lack of a better word. I'm able to break down problems and get through systems. And then Android experience and I worked on applications for startups, means that I have some industry experience. and I worked on it for the past 4 years, means I am pretty goddamn good at it because, or at least I know more than the average person.
Yeah.
So you can
That's what it
see
looks
like,
that.
yeah, so you can see like how that entire story that I've just laid out for you tells you so much about me and makes you want to learn a lot more. I could have done what you did and said, "Oh, I worked on Android 2.0, and I had to migrate over the native toolbar over to Action Bar Sherlock." And I could have gotten into these little details that nobody cares about, but I present them a story in a way that made anyone care. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to do. Paint for me a story that makes anyone care. And I'm going to tell you why this ties into the behavioral interview in a bit.
Yeah. Thanks. I think it's hard for me to tie everything together. Although I remember earlier you were saying like it looks like I had a lot of CI/CD experience.
Mhm.
Maybe I could use that to tell like a story in the sense that okay, I like touched on a lot of CI/CD work that made me interested in automating a lot of stuff, and then maybe I like got into AWS and I got certifications for that to build scrappy things, and that's how I was able to make the Jenkins job at work or something like that.
Well, here's the thing. Notice what you just said. You said, "Oh, I did a little bit of CI/CD work, and then I did AWS, and then you got back to CI/CD work for some scripts." Notice here that I could have rearranged that in almost any order, and nothing about you would have changed. It's like, "Oh, I did CI/CD work, then I got AWS, and I did CI/CD work." You could have just said, "Hey, I got AWS certification, and then I did CI/CD work, and then more CI/CD work."
Yeah.
Notice how that story doesn't really change. Whereas for me, I told you because I started out doing video game hacks that I ended up rolling that into Android development. And once I got very good and honed my skills, I rolled that into a patent and I stuck with the story. I stuck with Android for 4 years. Notice here that if I put anything out of order, it doesn't really make much sense. You can't really learn Android development without learning Java or programming to begin with.
Yeah.
And you know, you could have just started out, and it could have said, "Oh, I started off in Android development and then rolled into video game hacks." But then that makes you sound like, "Oh, my video game hacking skills are so much better now because I was because that's the last thing I said." So most people assume that that's what I stuck with, you know. And it doesn't
Yeah.
make sense to put the patent before any of that either. So you notice here the way I've said it is it plays the story because in no way does rearranging the order of those events make the same sense. Whereas with you, I could rearrange those events in any order and it would still be exactly the same.
Right, right. Yeah, there's like there's a sense of order in the way you present your experience, but
Right.
not with
And
mine.
right. And a story should be like that. So again, and so I'll leave you to that, but I think let's just say that I just for the sake of time, I'm going to say you're a CI/CD engineer who got very interested in the nuances of continuous deployment. That you pursued you pursued AWS certifications on your own time.
Okay, that sounds like a great start.
Yeah, and then
Thanks.
from there, that AWS, you were able to apply that to your SAP job and scale up the CI/CD work to 1 million users.
Okay, yeah,
How does that sound as a story? Do you think you can run with that?
it it sounds really nice, and specifically what I mean by that is like it was like impactful, and there was like a sense of there was a sense of order, like a story. Like I don't think I would have been able to come up with that honestly. So
Right.
thanks.
I think this is something that you should do, but again, let's go and run with this example so that way you understand where I'm heading with this. So
Mhm.
the reason why I say this is because a lot of these questions that you get asked in the behavioral interview is basically the exact same question. Name one time when you had a disagreement with a coworker and you resolved it, or name one time where you failed a project and what did you learn from it, or even like names what is your greatest weakness. All these questions underneath are exactly the same. They are asking you what points did you struggle with, or how did you resolve conflicts during your story.
Mhm.
So, for instance, if you were to ask me that, name one time you had a struggle with a coworker and how did you resolve it? I would back again. This is assuming back of me in 2016. before I joined Apple, I would say one time I would twist that question and say, well, your question's about disagreement. Would a disagreement with a client work? And they probably say sure, to be honest. And I would say a lot of the times back when I was working at Swipe Development, we would often have projects come through the door, and a lot of them we did not believe in. One of them was like this version of Instagram for food. I don't remember the name.
Mhm.
And we thought it was the dumbest idea ever. We did not agree with it. But at the same time, we knew that this was vital for the business because it brought in a source of income. And while it wasn't a project that any of us truly wanted, truly believed in its success, we still did it because we knew we could roll that money into bigger projects and be able to invest in other asks that clients were asking of us at the time. And so what I learned from that is to pick your battles wisely, because even though you can't always do what you believe, sometimes you need to make the compromises in order to make the projects that you do believe in succeed. And for us, because we were a startup that was netting zero profit because all the money went back to the employees, infrastructure, and trying to keep the business afloat, would not have the freedom to pick and choose. So you see here that really, like, I tied in the story of, I was working on Android applications for startups. Remember how I said that at the very beginning, or at least I said I worked on Android experiences for companies.
Mhm.
So you can kind of see how that was a modification of that story. And that's reinforces in your mind that I'm an Android engineer. But then now I've added a unique twist of, hey, I've also had to deal with the clients. So now let me pose the question to you. Name one time you had a disagreement with a coworker. How did you resolve it? And what did you learn from it?
Yeah. Um, I have a I had like a canned response for this, and
Sure.
the response I had was okay. Essentially, so I'm trying to use what you just told
No,
me right
let's
now.
start with the canned response and
Yeah,
see if we can massage it to your story.
yeah, sure. So so I'm responsible for handling crashes, and one day, well, there was a crash, and it lasted for more than 10 minutes, and I I was responsible for it myself, but I also requested help from senior colleagues. My senior colleagues told me to just restore the system to a previous state. I I looked into it a little bit more, and it looked like it was a SQL statement to change the value, or so like an insert statement,
Okay.
or and he trusted my judgment because I had done more research, and he just like quickly glanced at it, and I told them that it would be more volatile if the customer could lose their information if we restore to a previous state. So he trusted my judgment, and it worked like that. And there were no repercussions on the system, and the customer was able to use their system again.
Okay. So then what did you learn from this?
Uh, uh, I I don't have a response to that, but like the response is pretty lame in the sense that I know how to dig deep into the distributed database systems.
Okay, so you learned how to do that. But every single problem that you come up with, you should learn a technical skill. I think that's kind of a given. But
Yeah,
I think the more worrisome part about this response is that literally someone more senior than you told you what to do,
and I
and
didn't
you flat
listen.
out and you didn't listen.
Yeah, that's fair.
So this is not a great thing to say. So,
Hmm.
and obviously, it second is like, it's a SQL statement. Well, what project was this?
It it had yeah, it's not a specific project. Like it's just literally um like the second line of my experience at SAP, where I like try and maintain service availability for like customer systems when they fail.
Okay. Is this part of your CI/CD story, or is this just in general?
I don't see how I can relate to the CID/CD story.
Okay. So, I mean, it's okay to have like these general stories. Not everything is going to be related to your story. But it's just like try, because the thing is, we want to reinforce in the person's head that you are CI/CD engineer and you're very good at your job. And that's why I usually try to keep things towards that. That's like your North Star, but it's not like a hard set rule. So obviously, these things do come up, like a database. You had like how about you used to say like we had a database that was tied to the CI/CD project. Is that okay to say, or is that like dishonest? Like, is that not true?
Like, like the thing is, like, okay, after like we recover, like we run this job to collect what was why it crashed, right?
Okay.
So I guess if I were to tie it in, that's how I would tie it in.
Okay. I mean, you could just say that you're. I mean, let's keep it general. I think for that particular story, but you can change it on your own time.
Mhm.
So let's just say that yeah, the reason why this is not great is because again, as you said, you went against someone else's judgment as an intern, which is not really um that great. I
I
think
agree.
the way I would massage that is that I would say I did a little bit of research into the problem and found the root solution. And my colleague wanted to initially try to roll back the system, but I
Yeah.
presented this new finding to him and told him that if this statement was instead fixed, that we could avoid the rollback. I presented to him the benefits and trade-offs of his decision, that we might lose customer data, and that he decided instead to go with my fix. And so the way you could roll now, the way I said that, it it does omit the fact that you disagreed and
Mhm.
decided to just look at the what's called information after.
Yeah.
But notice the way that I said it, it didn't really sound like that. It sounded more like, "Oh, I investigated it and found that he had initially thought of a solution, and I presented him with some new information and suggested a better one."
Yeah. It
It's the
was
way you phrase it. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna repeat what you said exactly. Like,
Okay. Yeah. So it's a matter of phrasing it, and we all try to present the best version of ourselves, but without
mhm,
trying to lie, of course.
mhm.
But it's very important that we keep in mind what the actual situation is and that we're honest with ourselves. So, but that being said, if you can present it this way, then what do you think a good lesson or what I learned from this is?
I think it's mainly like I'm able to like look at trade-offs and pick the best action.
That's what any engineer should do. But what is the specific thing that you learned?
How to recover a system properly.
You're
Uh,
focusing too much on the technicals. Focus on what makes someone an engineer special, because any engineer can weigh trade-offs. Any engineer can learn one piece of code or one specific technicality from a bug crash. Like, for instance, if I run into a lifecycle crash on Android, then I'm going to do my research on what an Android lifecycle is. And now I learned that what an Android lifecycle is. Well, that's cool, but every Android engineer should know what a lifecycle is.
yeah. Um, would it be the part where I like am not necessarily disagreeing, but like I was able to come to an agreement with a senior engineer, something like that.
Sorry, what was that?
Like I'm able to disagree and work together with my teammates.
So you're basically going to say you learned how to disagree with your teammates.
Okay, yeah, never mind. It does not sound good. Sorry.
Again, focus on what makes an engineer special. What makes you stand out? Why should I care about you as an engineer?
Does it tie back to the how it makes me a better I don't know, like how it makes me a special, unique CI/CD engineer.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to play a role because again, we want to reinforce this idea and craft your story instead of trying to come up with a bunch of different small little incidents.
Right. Wow. I really thought that I should have a like a well-rounded background, which is kind of why I touch base on like a lot of experiences. But um, it sounds more like I need to show that I am really not really interested in like one specific area, but that's kind of what motivated me to keep going.
I mean, this is a script I'm trying to come up for you. Of course, you can pick whatever you want, but I'm just doing this as an exercise for you so you understand what it takes to really stand out in these behavioral interviews. Because if I just give you a collection of stories, then it just like you become forgettable, but you just become like any other engineer.
That's true.
And right now in the behavioral interview, I'm trying to make sure that you can stand out and be memorable.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay.
So that's why I'm hammering on this one idea of CI/CD engineer because that way, if anything, they might not remember like every single detail or answer that you gave, but they'll remember that one fact about you.
That's true.
Trust me, a bunch of people I meet, I don't really remember a lot about their stories, but I do remember like two or three facts.
That's good to hear from the engineer side.
So they're going back to the whole engineer thing. Let me actually see if I can wrap a story. Let me see if I can wrap a lesson for you. So you disagree with this colleague, and you presented information. I would say that you could try rolling that into always ask the deeper questions. You learn to not just take people's word for it just because they're more senior than you. While you
Mhm.
should respect them, you also have a right to say something and present information as long as you do your due diligence.
Okay. That sounds really good, like learning. Like,
The reason why I phrase it like that is because for one, it makes you sound very respectful of people because like they say something that means that if they're seniors, they're gonna have more weight in it, and you should really take to heart with them. But at the same time, it sounds respectful because it means you're presenting new information to them for them to examine, and hopefully they come to the same conclusions. If not, then too bad. But at the same time, being able to ask those deeper questions and having the natural inclination to really go off on your own and really research a better solution can also tie into your story because keep in mind, like the basic storyline we have is that you got so interested in CI/CD that you decided to pursue AWS on your own, AWS certification.
mhm.
So we could reflect that sentiment in this story where you really wanted to know if there was a better way of doing things. So you decided to pursue the root cause of the issue rather than just rolling the entire system back.
That sounds a lot better than what I had.
Yeah. So you learn to ask the deeper questions but also be respectful. Of course, I'll leave it to you to rephrase it. But at the same time, you can kind of see how it repeats your storyline. Even though it doesn't tie directly to CICD, it does tie back to your motivations.
Very true. Yeah.
So then if I'm thinking back about this guy, and I see that, oh, you pursue things on your own, I'll remember that. Like, hey, this is the CICD guy who likes to who digs deeper. That could be one kind of story you could tell.
I yeah, I really like it, and I will polish something up that I had before. It sounds like it makes a lot more sense than the previous responses I had.
Mhm.
I agree that like whatever um whatever canned responses I had to behaviorals were like, kind of scattered.
Mhm. Okay, so let's. So in the time we have left, I mean, I know I booked it for 1 hour and a half, but there's only so much I can really cover here without you
Yeah,
overloading. So I'm gonna
I
show you.
agree.
I'm gonna tell you why. Like I put you on this. Like now that I showed you, okay, let's have your story as a engineer going. Then we're gonna create a story that ties back to your motivations or who you are as an engineer. Um, and so there's one last step after this. The thing is that you should have like maybe 4 or 5 of these stories rehearsed, practiced, whatever, and that rolls off the
Yeah.
tongue very, very smoothly. And
Yeah.
you should be able to massage these stories into whatever questions the interviewer asks. So, for
Mhm.
instance, like again, like I said, a lot of these questions are going to be very similar. Name one time you disagree with a colleague. Name one time you had a failure. Name one time that you like, for instance,
There's a lot of like the uh yeah,
what is
like
like what's your greatest
disagreements,
weakness or some shit,
conflict. Yeah.
Like I literally do not know what's it called? All the fucking behavioral interview questions because it's like one part out of 5, but at any point it's like you can look this up, but all these different stories, you should have like one story for per question. You should have like 4 or 5 stories that you can massage into the questions. So for instance, tell me about the time you were under a lot of pressure, what was going on, and how'd you get through it. So let's actually do that. Um and say, oh, you're under a lot of pressure. Well, your server went down for 10 minutes, didn't it?
Yeah,
That's
it did.
pressure.
Yeah, it is.
And so the learning you can adapt to that is that of saying, oh, well, I learned that to raise questions or raise observations in a more respectful way, in a very respectful way to my senior colleagues, or to learn to dig deeper. You could also say that it's very important to not let the pressure affect your ability to make correct decisions. Like had the timeline been strict, I would have agreed and gone with the senior engineer's response. But I had also felt that it's more important for us to make the correct decision so it doesn't bite us in the ass again, or something like that. So you can kind of see how I took the same story, the same motivation, the same way you express yourself, and then just kind of changed the emphasis to fit the question.
Yeah, you pretty much answered a different question that they asked by fitting it or massaging it, as you said. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is why I'm trying to get you to do. So the recommendation for you is to really come up with your own. So to recap, the recommendation for you is to come up with your own story that you believe in. You can rehearse, you can roll it off the tongue. After that, you want to be able to come up with a few stories that you can massage into any question, and that ties back to your story. And then again, be able to rehearse these core stories at the whenever you can, and then learn how to massage the emphasis and the result to fit the question.
I
So let's actually do this. Let's actually take one more question. I'm going to give you a question, and I
Mhm.
want you to try this exercise with me.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
let's see. Give me an example of. Oh wait, this is kind of similar. Uh, Tell me about a time when you worked under very close supervision or extremely loose supervision. How did you handle that?
Um, I will talk about the time where I worked under uh, loose supervision. I do that pretty often while I am monitoring our user services. And there's a specific time where I was by myself and a crash occurred.
Mhm.
And it was 10 minutes into a crash and I had to
No, different
recover it.
story. Different story. Not the same one. Well, I want to come up with another story on the spot, or use one of your canned responses.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry.
It's fine.
Uh,
But I understand what you're trying to do, and I think this is the correct way of doing it. You just need to be a lot smoother at it.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, loose supervision. Um, okay. Um, I guess specifically when when COVID hit, we had a lot more users on our systems, and we in turn we had a lot more crashes, which overloaded our work for my team.
Mhm.
And I had this idea of creating a job to automate the collection process for these crashes so we
Okay.
can better so it saves us time.
Okay.
And for this, I told my team that I thought it was a thoughtful idea,
Mhm.
and they let me do work on this project, albeit by myself because my team was already busy trying to resolve the crashes on top of their daily work.
Mhm.
And so I specifically made a Jenkins job, which has 3 stages. It's to connect to the database, then generate the logs and collect the logs into a collect and forward it to the right team for investigation.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So you came up with a proposal to automate the collection of logs.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Then where does the close supervision or loose supervision come in?
loose supervision because it was I had no help and it was like free form for me and like they didn't expect me to do this, if that makes sense. Like
Okay, okay, let's massage that. So you said that you excuse me. You said that you had this idea of coming up with an automatic way of collecting analytics.
yeah.
What was the catalyst for that event? Was this just something that you came up with on your own?
Oh, it was increased user
Traffic because of
increased amount
COVID,
of
right?
users. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So then you could just rephrase that to say we had an increased amount of users because due to COVID on our systems. Therefore, I thought it was more efficient for us to automate the collection of our analytics.
Yeah.
And then okay, so you thought that. Then what? You just went ahead and did it, or what?
Then I told my team the priority and the amount of time that it would save us.
Mhm.
And they thought it was a good idea, albeit that they did not have time to work on this with me.
Okay.
So I did it myself, which was in like 3 simple steps.
Okay. Sure. Conflict action resolution. I'm fine with that. And then the question now is, okay, so you handle that just by doing it yourself. Cool. So you can take responsibility. Is there anything? I feel like the answer's kind of missing something, don't you?
Like what I learned from it, I guess.
Maybe,
Or
maybe it's like something that gives it a little bit of spice, because at the end of the day, it's just I had a good idea, I wrote it.
that's true. Maybe I could talk about how like my team adopts it now and it we actually use it and it saves us time. Would that help at all or
I mean, that's definitely one way for people to care about the impact of your work, but really, we're talking about who you are. And so it's like I'm not trying to force words into your mouth. That's the thing. I'm
yeah,
trying
yeah.
to add it's like fucking it's like when people cook their food without seasoning it. It's like, yeah, it's food and yeah, it's nutritious, but it tastes bland.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm trying to figure out that
Gotta spice it up.
spice. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like I feel like it's relating it to how I'm like a CI/CD engineer. Oh,
How about yeah? How about the fact that you're willing to take charge or pursue ideas you believe in?
so it would be something like, would it if I said I thought of an idea that would work and I wanted to learn more about how I could use CI/CD to solve this problem. So
How
I
about more that you're able to take autonomy and you're able to pursue ideas that you believe in? How about that?
on me.
Like you were like, can we say that it's fair? Did you spend extra hours outside of work to implement this on top of your own tasks, or was it just a new task?
Uh, I would say I worked pretty hard during that time, like because we were already busy and like this is just like icing on the cake. Yeah.
Yeah. So how about that? So you could say that, yeah. So it would be fair to say you worked on it outside of your own work, in order to improve the efficiency of your future work.
I, I I like that. Does that show that like I am really invested in learning more or something like that?
Yeah, you're invested in your own ideas that you think are good. So you're willing, because of that, you're willing to spend time outside of work to make it happen. You understand the benefits of it. And at the end, it had an impact of reducing the amount of workload that you had to do. Like you believe, and so what you can take the that one to be in multiple different ways. Like, you could be like, oh, you value efficiency, or you're willing to take initiative for ideas you believe in, that sort of thing. So let's say that we roll with this idea. You came up with this project. Of course, I'm going to let you fill in the details. So let me tell you. Let me ask you another question, and then let's see if we can massage it. So
Yeah.
describe a time when you saw some problem and took the initiative to correct it rather than waiting for someone else to do it.
Yeah.
This is exactly the story, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I just say like we had a problem where there was more users and more crashes, and I solved it by um on my own time because I thought it would save us more time in the future, and I just explained it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you could see I asked you two seemingly separate questions that you could answer with the exact same story.
Facts.
So yeah. So again, I recommend you do this exercise a few more times, come with a few different stories, make it tie into the overarching point you want to make about yourself, whether that's being a CI/CD engineer or being able to take charge of your own ideas and beliefs, that sort of whatever story you want to paint for the user, for the interviewer. And let's see where it goes.
I like that idea.
Okay. So I think I've said enough. I think you have plenty to chew on. Any questions for me?
I feel like I asked my questions in the beginning though, and yeah, like they were on like interviews that don't show emotion, something like that.
Right. It's like they're not showing any emotion because you haven't made them care. They don't give a shit. You're just giving them a bunch of stories.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So I don't know if you joined the Discord. I think you could also get a lot of help there. I think more people there are really focused on like resume building and like career advice, and I think you can learn a lot from people there. So, and I know the Discord hasn't been active as of lately because it's Christmas and all. But I think if you ping people in the career channel and ask them for help, I think a lot of people there are willing to help you. So
I actually didn't know there was a Discord. Thanks. Okay. Yeah, I will join that. Yeah.
All right, for sure. I will send you the link in a bit if I can get. Yeah.
Yeah. And did you send me the video of the behavioral interview? Or actually, I can also just search it out. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Give me a sec.
Yeah, and again, thanks for offering to do this again.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you for the support, by the way. So it's like, yeah, I did this as like a 1,000 subscriber special. So anyone who, decided to, support me, I feel like, I'll give something back.
Really? Yeah. I really appreciate it.
So thanks. I sent you the Discord. And then let me give you the video. And yeah, this should be the video. All right.
Nope. Okay. Thanks a lot again. And yeah, I hope you enjoy your holidays too, albeit that you're giving back a lot.
Yeah, just think of it as an early Christmas present, yo.
Yeah. Thank you, Edward. I mean, Edward.
All right. All right. Take care, man.